Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game.
It's game.
Let's meet the panel.
I'm Ari.
Trevor.
I'm Danielle.
And I'm Josh. And today we are going to be going over one of horror fiction's finest short stories, and that is The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs. He's a bit of a one-hit wonder, but this is probably one of the best short stories, let alone horror short stories.
Too bad it's not www.jacobs.com.
Trevor, you have a discussion, Trevor?
Yes. I was reading this a little while ago, and it just got me thinking. When you want something that's well beyond your means, and you really, really go out of your way to get it, like, say, in this story it's Wish, or in other stories, like Nash or Live, you just go pull out all the stops to attain what you want, and then you finally achieve it. Is it really worth it sometimes? I mean, there's always a price to pay.
It's a very broad question.
It was an interesting part in the when the Sergeant Morris first presented them.
Yeah.
Sergeant
Major
Morris presented them with the paw and
What book is that? The actual book?
This is Demons: Encounters with the Devil and His Minions, Fallen Angels, and Possessed.
Interesting.
There's a series of these. There's one with zombies.
A lot of people consider Monkey's Paw to be horror fiction. Honestly, I don't think that's the genre I would have picked for it, but it definitely feels like a different type of book.
I would say that much. But with
I'll explain it later.
Going on Trevor's question, his starter, Mr. White had said that he was pretty much satisfied. He had everything that he really wanted.
Yeah, he did say that.
They did. It seemed like they were a happy, quaint. They weren't upper class. I would say they were pretty. They were a pretty solid middle class
and
couple.
He still felt like
family.
He could give more. He still felt that he would not have used the paw.
People have that urge that they could get more. But they were even having. It was Herbert that suggested the 200 pounds. And funny how he was wondering, he knew that something suspicious was going to come out of it, whether they find it tied up in something, but there was no idea that it was going to be a compensation when he got into a meat accident.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because he was younger that maybe he was the one who suggested that? Because he felt like more like, oh, I can take that risk, like make that wish, like
perhaps.
I don't know, like because like you said, they're a quaint family, like they were comfortable with everything. There was the son who kept saying, oh, let's make that wish. And
I wonder what the paw would have did if instead of just saying I want 200 pounds, if he had said I want 200 pounds for my son to succeed. I wonder what the paw would have done in that case if he had worded it slightly differently.
Maybe he would have taken a heart attack.
yeah,
That's true. But I mean, we don't know. We never will know.
But it was interesting the way that they set that up, because Herbert was the one that worked, and with him working, he would be putting himself in danger. And that was just 200 pounds as a compensation. That really takes a turn, and be careful what you wish for. And I think the fact that it was a younger person that got killed that kind of way really sends a statement home.
I think that about what you had said, Trevor, about how like everyone has like a specific. The thing is that like I believe with Monkey's Paw is that what you have in front of you, like you can want more, but what you have in front of you, you really should just stick with it and try to make the most of what you have. Like, I can tell you right now, I'm the type of person who is not happy with what I have. I sometimes get really ticked off about that. But I know that I don't want to ask for something that just is so far out that like it would change my life, and and just make it worse, or
Well,
could
that's-
possibly make it worse, like
yeah.
they did in the monkey's paw.
That's the
Because there
point
are
of this
consequences
piece.
to everything. So even though I'm not entirely satisfied with everything in my life, it doesn't mean I don't want. I want it to change. I want it to stay because it's still something decent.
That's the point of this piece is trying to convey the idea that it's not up to us to control fate, and even a monkey's paw can't really help us, but it can certainly, in this case, teach a lesson.
Yeah, like it makes me think of like just folk tales that that constantly are giving messages like this. Even though this is in the horror genre, which I wonder what all of you thought. Because I agree with you. I wouldn't call it horror.
I would challenge all of you to think this is not horror. I would not say this is horror.
It depends on how you define horror, and I think that
Since we're not actually seeing anything, we're assuming that there's a zombie Herbert at the door, but we're not.
Yeah.
We are not seeing him.
that's an interesting point within itself, because that's the one of the biggest speculative questions.
That's
that
why
have
I
with
think
horror.
instead of it being horror, I think it falls into paranormal fiction. That's
Weird
for
fiction,
if not
yeah.
paranormal, then some kind of very loosely based science fiction.
I don't know about that, because
Because the story didn't scare me.
in Dance Macabre by Stephen King, or Dance Macabre, however you pronounce it,
The word is pronounced macabre.
Macabre,
Yeah.
yeah. But the Stephen King, his methodology for making an impact as far as horror is concerned is to terrify, then horrify, and then go for the gross out.
And honestly, I didn't feel any of those things in the monkey's paw.
It depends. I don't say I wouldn't say that it was scary per se, but when Herbert was at the door, that boggled my mind.
Yeah, that.
I have a feeling that it could have been him, but I would say that he was mutilated or somewhat of a zombie, because you have to look at the methodology of, because he just kept knocking and she was constantly. I think that someone with a sound mind, I'm almost certain that he didn't have a sound mind, because you knock at the door, when you hear somebody unhooking the latches, you really don't keep knocking. You just wait for them to unhook the latches, and then and he didn't even take a moment to stop. It was just knock, 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 knock. But that's how I saw it.
It may have just been the way it was worded too.
And then the third wish was he wished him dead, which it doesn't mention it in the piece itself, but in the play form that I read, in the film adaptation that I watched, which was an old-fashioned short film.
I think Are You Afraid of the Dark also didn't they? The monkey's paw episode.
I think almost everybody had a go at the monkey's paw.
Simpsons
type
had a
story.
go at it.
But yeah, I personally would not consider it horror fiction. I'd either call it paranormal fiction or loosely based sci-fi.
What about like thriller?
It would work in that.
Could be thriller. It would be more of a paranormal thriller though.
Well, because like that part is scary at the end. Don't get me wrong, but that's like not what the story is. That's just a part of it. That's why I wouldn't call it horror. Like, it's about the monkey's paw.
Thinking back to the rationale of Stephen King, it actually does work as a horror, because when you think about it, it terrifies the average reader with the potential of what the monkey's paw can do, as conveyed by the sergeant to the family.
Yeah.
Horrified with the knowledge of what it can do, brought from potential to actual reality. And then it goes for the gross out as you imagine the decayed form of the young man knocking on the door, like,
And it doesn't have to say anything either, which that's when the gross out is most effective, when it causes you to imagine.
Another point I want to make up is if you view the monkey's paw in another direction. So instead of using if the monkey's paw being like you wish for something and it's completely literal, but you are trying to wish for something positive and something negative happens, or something realistic happens based on the consequences. there are also situations. All my life I've called them reverse monkey's paws, where like if something bad might happen in your life, but in the end it turns out to be beneficial or to be good. For instance, I have a friend whose dad is currently in the hospital right now, and what happened is that he has absolutely no freedom whatsoever because of the way his schedule works, the way his job works, and because he's has some special needs and stuff. And as soon as his dad went to the hospital, which obviously is a bad thing, what happened is that he started becoming more independent. He was able to drive some more. He was able to do some stuff, and frankly, like, it gave him more independence, more freedom. So in a way, the monkey's paw can actually be reversed.
The idea of everything happens for a reason.
Basically, almost. I'm basically saying everything has a consequence, but the consequence doesn't have to be bad.
In a way.
Yeah.
And I think I really like this story because I feel that it shows that there are consequences. If you try to force something, there are probably worse consequences if you force something.
I guess
So, like, if I were to try and say right now that I wanted $1 million, like literally, just like in Monkey's Paw, it could happen in a way that I could lose someone I love, and they have a will that says, "Oh, you have $1 million."
That's kind of like Richard Matheson's Button.
I think Twilight Zone did that. Are You Afraid of the Dark did that. It's a lot of it's definitely the
Richard Matheson contributed to Twilight Zone, so
Yeah,
it could have very well been.
I'm trying to remember what it was. It was definitely a '60s episode where there was like a couple in a shop, and this genie popped up or something and said, "You got 3 wishes," and whenever they wished for it, like it would have a consequence attached to it. I don't remember what
one of
the name
those. One of them wished to be the leader of
a country.
of a
Yeah.
country, and he became Hitler when the country was leading up to the days
That was it. Yeah.
suicide, or leading up to the day when they were being invaded.
Yep, that was it. I don't remember what it was called, but that is definitely the one I was thinking of.
caveat.
I think it
emptor.
was a season 4-hour-long episode, too. But do we have any final thoughts?
We've all have our own set of monkey's paws in our lives where we have wishes and have the consequences. Sometimes they're unavoidable, sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's even necessary to actually go for the monkey's paws. Like, I actually had a college education, because you have to have one in order to actually get a good job. At least that's the mainstream perception. So to go for a bachelor's degree, I had a student loan. So that went all well and hunky-dory and everything was good until I graduated and got saddled with the debt. You could pretty much imagine I'm still kicking myself for it, but
at least you have the degree. That's what's important.
yeah.
In a way, that's a monkey's paw in and of itself. You get the degree, but then you have to pay off the debt. Like I said, everything in life has some sort of consequence. And you have to be prepared to take those consequences, even if it means that your son dies.
That's for sure the moral message. of this.
That's what they end up in a much more tense situation and without a son.
Yeah.
So they were much better off in the beginning, which is that. Granted, that's the whole idea of
I think
fate.
I think a lot of people just cannot settle for being content. They need more.
Yeah, that's
I really don't know anyone who's settled for what they have.
But I would say my final thought is the fact that that lead up after the second wish, when Herbert allegedly comes back, is probably one of the most it is, I would say, the most mind-boggling moment in literature for me.
It's pretty freaky.
Where what is at the other end of that door? That's probably the biggest question I have. Is he there in complete form? Is he there mutilated? Is it a zombie?
Is it the postman?
Is it Is it someone?
And
It could be anything. So
then he stops knocking. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
opens the door and there's nothing but breeze.
Yeah.
Wind.
You would have expected, if he wished him dead, you would have expected the body to just fall then and there. It wouldn't have just
Yeah.
disappeared.
Like I said, it's magic.
You just said dead and at rest.
Ooh,
So
it's magic.
I was more afraid.
No.
It made me think of the wife's reaction. I was more afraid of that when he's knocking at the door, and just how livid she was, and trying to get unlock the door and get in the chair and stuff. That freaked me out more than the fact that something was on the other side. Like just her reaction.
Just as a recall of memory, who gave the second wish? The Mr. or Mrs. White?
The mother makes him.
yeah,
Right?
mother. It's the mother's choice, but the father's the one that casts the wish, just like he does for the first wish. He's the one that casts it, even though Herbert's the one that suggests it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
So.
And I think it was only 3 per person. So.
But I would think, going back to your point about the mother and her reaction, I think that any one of us, if we were in her position, we'd be doing the same thing. We'd be frantically trying to unlock all of the locks.
I would not. I could tell you right now, I honestly, it has nothing to do with the book, I honestly am the kind of person where once someone passes away, maybe it's because of the way I was brought up, but once someone passes away, I know there's no getting them back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to try to get them back because I can still have them in my memories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's just because of the way I was brought up by my parents or what, but I would never try to bring someone back from the dead, even if I had an option, because you live your life.
I think it also depends on the kind of death, too, because usually if somebody lives a good life, usually when their time is up, it's evident in the last days, weeks, months.
There is a book, I'll be very brief about this. I'm actually going to be reviewing this for Literary Gladiators in a short period of time, or maybe I've already reviewed it at this point. But it's a Doctor Who book called Touched by an Angel, and what it's about is that this guy, there's these angels that send you back in time, and there's this guy that gets touched by an angel, and also his wife dies in a car accident, and basically the angels are trying to make sure that he does not prevent the car accident from happening. So if he doesn't prevent it, then they can eat off everything that's going on, and in a way it's kind of the same thing. And this woman's only in her 30s, and she gets into a car accident and dies, and you want to do everything you can to save her, but you gotta let time run its course.
Even Time Traveler's Wife, I've read that book, but that book is all about fate and how you cannot, they know that one of the characters is going to die, and he tells his wife, I cannot prevent this. It's just going to happen. You can't bring me back after this. That's interesting.
It is a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll leave a link, if the video's up already, I'll leave a link down to it.
And also I would like to just say, maybe in the comments you can say, what would you do in a situation like this? Would you try to save someone if you had some ultra mega power? And even if you don't know what the consequences are, but would you at least try it?
A lot of questions that the readers would have about this one. What would be your 3 wishes? What do you think's at the other side of the door? If you're interested in checking out The Monkey's Paw, it's in plenty of anthologies, but the one I have is Demons, Encounters with the Devil and His Minions, Fallen Angels, and the Possessed, edited and with commentary by John Skip, who is a horror writer himself. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.
Reading.